if you're willing to put in the hours and put in the work, like, you have a good shot at figuring it out and making it happen. Because I'd never run a restaurant before. I'd never done a food truck before. I just figured it out.
Feel the burn, baby.
Oh, yeah. It's a slam dunk.
It is absolutely breathtaking. Welcome to the Bike to Bites podcast. I'm your host, Garrett Bess. This is a companion podcast to the Bike to Bites television series, and you can check out the links in the show notes to find out more information about where you can watch the series. In today's podcast, we're going to be revisiting Austin, Texas, where I stopped at 4 different restaurant locations along my bike route. And my guest today is Bryce Gilmore, owner and executive chef of Barley Swine. Now, I'm excited to get into this episode, but before I do that, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, E+, for their support of the Bike to Bites podcast. When your tomorrows are built on technology, you need a partner with superior insight, with expertise in cutting-edge innovation across AI, security, cloud, and workplace transformation. E+ is on the front line of today's modern enterprise. E+, where technology means more. Okay, so I'd like to take a moment to recap my Austin, Texas bike route. It was a 24.4 mile ride in total. I think my highest elevation gain was around 780 feet, and that was right up near Mount Bonnell State Park. And you take the bike up there, you get these spectacular views of Lake Austin from that point. Totally worth the ride up there. Made a little bit easier because I was on my Barley Z0 disc bike, so it was a little bit light and supple getting up that climb. Didn't create too many problems for me. I think my highest grade was like a 4.5% grade. That Shimano drivetrain with that electric shifting makes it super easy. This ride was really a spectacular ride around the city of Austin. We really covered a wide berth, if you will, making our way through and around the entire city. And one of the most spectacular, for me, views was this downhill section coming down Congress Street, staring right at the Texas State House, which is the 6th largest state house in the United States. I say that in the episode, but it's pretty spectacular when you get the viewpoint on 2 wheels coming down Congress Street, staring right at it. And in fact, it's actually higher than the United States Capitol. So it's worth the ride going down there and checking that out. Now, we started our ride in Austin, Texas, right smack in the center of town at the Canopy Austin downtown. And from there, we ventured to our first restaurant for breakfast. It's a vegan and vegetarian restaurant called the Bowden Creek Cafe. I sat down with Leslie Martin, the owner, and boy, did she take me on quite the journey of a culinary adventure. We started out with our first dish, which was a tofu scramble with a blueberry cornbread. And the cornbread in and of itself is worth just making a visit and going there because it was incredible. And if that wasn't enough, we switched into a potato leek omelet. Now, I love potato leeks. This omelet was pretty cool. It had a black pepper sour cream on top of it. But what made it really unique was the fact that they baked hash browns right smack into the center of the omelet, and it was delicious. And then, of course, the chipotle pecan pesto dip with fresh ciabatta bread. This was a fantastic way to start the ride, carb up a little bit. We got back on the bike and we headed to our next destination, which was the Sour Duck Market. I sat down with Brian Cortez, which is the chef de cuisine, and also Sean Flanagan, who is the bakery manager. Now, what makes this place really cool, first of all, it's kind of got like a beer garden. They've got a stage out in the back. You can sit outside. They do live performances there, but it's a bakery and a restaurant connected. It's a scratch kitchen. Everything they do from scratch right out of this place. And I will tell you, what we were treated to was mind-blowing. First, the sourdough bread. Now, I've had a lot of sourdough bread, and I know San Francisco will stake claim to being the best sourdough bread in the country, and by many people's standards, it is. However, the sourdough bread that I had at the Sour Duck was just delicious, and I would say in a contest with one from San Francisco, might give it a run for its money. I also had something that I will tell you is in my top. If you love cheeseburgers or hamburgers, but I'm going to say cheeseburgers, you must try the double cheese smash burger at Sour Duck. It had pimento cheese on top, pickles, a secret sauce. Of course, nobody ever wants to share their secrets, on the bottom of a fresh-made challah bread bun. And I will tell you, it's in my top 5 burgers I've ever had. It's worth going there just for the burger. We had a cold cut ciabatta sandwich with some southern chow chow, smoked ham, bologna, salami, provolone cheese, and lettuce. I mean, if you want an experience, you have to try the cold ciabatta sandwich there. It was just and everything, like I said, everything there is made from scratch, including their sauces. And then to end the entire experience there, we had a honey cake. I can't even tell you how many layers it was, but it was like I think it might have been 15. I have no. It was ridiculous, and the honey cake baked fresh there in the bakery. And I love the fact that there's this relationship between the bakery and the restaurant, and everything that is being served on a bun or on a roll or on a with as a sandwich. Everything is baked there, and all of the baked desserts and the coffee. Just so you know, I didn't have one. You didn't see me have it on camera, but I will tell you in this special podcast that we are doing, you must check out the coffee. They have one with some cayenne pepper. If you ever thought of coffee with some cayenne pepper in it, I don't know what it was, but it was mind-blowing. All right, so we filled up. We had a nice lunch there, and we made our way to the final, or not our final destination, our next destination, which was a restaurant called Barley Swine. And Barley Swine, all I can tell you is it was fantastic. And in fact, we're going to be talking to chef owner from Barley Swine in just a second. So I'm not going to dive too deeply into what we ate in this particular one, because I want to save that for when we introduce our next guest. And we'll talk more about it. But I will then tell you that our final destination after Barley Swine was Verbena. Now, Chef Paolo Gama, who is the chef at Verbena, incredibly talented. The Verbena restaurant is located right back where we started our ride, which is at the Canopy Austin downtown. And we don't always feature restaurants inside the hotels that we stay at, but I must say, this restaurant was something special. And the chef's passion, you can't even describe how passionate he was. He kind of mixes some of his Mexican his upbringing in Mexico and those influences into the dishes that he does. They would call it Southwestern cuisine. And we sampled a campeche fish with asparagus covered with mole sauce. And the mole sauce was both, it looks like a design of marble on top of the fish, and it's a combination of like a chocolate and a vanilla. Not really. The color wise, they're like a dark colored chocolate and a white vanilla. It looks like something that you'd eat for dessert, but it wasn't, and it was just savory and delicious and wonderful. And then, of course, we had a quesadilla with corned bean squash in a cheese mole sauce. Fantastic. Now, all that said, I mentioned to you that we stopped at Barley Swine, and that is our guest who's appearing with us today on today's podcast. Bryce Gilmore is the owner and executive chef of Barley Swine, located in Austin, Texas, that opened with a commitment to support regional farmers and ranchers. And Gilmore has been honored by James Beard as a semifinalist, Rising Star Chef, and multi-year Best Chef Southwest finalist. On top of being extremely supportive of local businesses, Barley Swine is a carbon-neutral restaurant making efforts to reduce their effect on the environment. Bryce, welcome to our podcast. Can't thank you enough.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm super excited that we're going to have this opportunity to kind of talk a little bit more about some of the things that we touched on when we were together at the restaurant. And as you know, you can only cover so much in a episode of television that's only 23 minutes long after you take out all the commercial time. So this gives us a good chance to really kind of talk about some of the things that I was really excited to learn about when we were together. So thank you.
Yeah. Happy to chat and share any knowledge, anything you want to talk about.
So I want to rewind the clock a little bit in terms of you as a chef, as a restaurateur. Come back for me and our listeners and our viewers and talk to me about when you think you first got that bite, if you will, that inclination that this is what you wanted to do.
Yeah, so my father's a chef, so I was kind of raised in kitchens. I have memories of like visiting him at the restaurant, and I never really thought about it until I started working at the restaurants when I was 14, and I started doing like busboy type stuff, and I kind of hated it. I never I didn't enjoy it. I liked having a job and earning money when I was 14, so like I respected that and tried to have like a work ethic and stuff. But as far as getting into the restaurant business, no desire to do that at that age. When I was probably 17, I started getting more into the kitchen, and that's when I really like started to kind of enjoy the job and
What were you doing at that time at 17 in the kitchen?
just working like the pantry station, like making salads and desserts and things, kind
Hmm.
of like an entry level position in the kitchen. Um, that I had no cooking experience obviously, so it was an easy kind of transition into the kitchen on that station. So I really liked creating, and the energy, the vibe in the kitchen was just really I don't know, it was contagious, and um it was fun. I really started to enjoy it.
So
And
the hustle and the bustle
so
was you basically fed
yeah,
off
so
of
like
that.
I think it was like senior year of high school when I started doing that. And I just I just really started to fall in love with it, and started looking around at what my options were to grow in the culinary field. And spent a year after high school working for my dad. He was the chef of a restaurant that had multiple locations, so I got to kind of travel with him and help train people on different stations.
I was going to ask you what
Um,
kind of restaurant it was.
it was kind of southwestern cuisine, is what they were calling it. So down here in Texas, southwestern and Tex-Mex cuisine is very popular.
Hmm.
Um, that's our if we had a culture for cuisine, I would say Tex-Mex is it. So there's a lot of that stuff. And so yeah, I mean, I spent the year after high school doing that and decided to go to culinary school. And I went to San Francisco for that, which was a huge eye opener. Being raised in Austin, and Austin was a smaller city at that time. We didn't have a lot of uh, great restaurants and things to learn from. So it was huge exposure for me to see just what a really good restaurant could be, and different cuisines from all over the world represented there. And
Did your dad encourage your kind of foray into this world, or was he trying to say
no,
stay away?
quite the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. My father, he's an old school chef. He worked his butt off, and my memories, other than kind of visiting him in the restaurants, was basically like he would come home after we had gone to bed, and by the time we got up to go to school, he was already gone for to start his day. So um, there was a lot of that. He tried really hard to to do right by us. Coached our soccer teams on the weekends, and he would be working brunch service and leave in the middle of it to come coach our soccer game, and then go back to finish brunch
Wow. So
at the
he
restaurant.
never had a
So
restful moment.
he was very, he was very committed to his career and trying to grow as a chef, and while still trying to take care of his family. So I think he did it right. He did it right. But um, so that
So what was
I
that
grew
what
up
was that
around it.
conversation
And
like when you told dad, I think I want to go to culinary school?
I think as soon as he started seeing me interested in it, he had his chef buddies talk to me. They just reiterated kind of how hard it is, and wanted to make sure I understood what I was getting into. And I knew. I mean,
Oh, you lived it.
I think I've always just kind of I've appreciated working hard, and I've never shied away from it. And so it's one of those things. My passion was really growing, and there wasn't anyone that was going to talk me out of it. And I think when I went to San Francisco, it just kind of furthered that passion and opened my eyes to more.
How long were you in San Francisco in culinary school?
Yeah, I was there well, school was like a year, and then I think I spent a couple months after that there, and then kind of came back to Austin for a little bit, went back out there to work at a place, and then
Now,
um,
did you stage at all, or did you like what was?
a little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit. I didn't know. I didn't know a lot when I first went out there. I didn't know what all these great chefs were.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to learn and figure out like what the French Laundry was. I remember getting the French Laundry book um, back in the early 2000s and just like, wow, this is okay. This is what food can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea when I moved out there like what any of that was.
So this opened a whole new world
Yeah.
to you, and yet you're in that world, and now you make a decision after you're done with your schooling to come back to Texas. Now, when you came back to Texas, did you say, "Okay, I'm getting into the restaurant business. This is what I want to do. I want to continue this"? And
Yeah,
where
and
did you go from there?
part of why I wanted to go to San Francisco was because the school was in like downtown, right in the heart of it, and so I could work in restaurants while I was going to school, which was nice. And then I think I just kind of started to get homesick and wanted to come back to Austin. I was 20 years old when I was done with all that, and
Mm-hmm.
I think just turned 21 when I got a job in Austin and just kind of worked at a couple places here and started to get the itch to kind of see what was going on in other cities again, and got a job at a great restaurant in San Francisco and went back out there. Spent a year there, and then kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I'd always been intrigued by Aspen, Colorado. Just thought it'd be kind of a cool experience to live there for a little bit,
Not too shabby a place to go and.
and there's good restaurants
Oh
there,
yeah.
um, and I had never worked in a hotel before. I thought that would be a good experience to get. Um, so I found a chef that had his own. He was a partner in a farm, and they did. The farm would bring produce, and the restaurant would just have to figure out what to do with it every day, and that was really cool to experience. And we did a lot of whole animal butchery, charcuterie things. This is stuff that I wanted to learn.
Mm.
So that's why I went out there and spent about a year out there doing that. And after that, I started just kind of feeling feeling the itch to kind of do my own thing. I was still very young. I think I was 26 or so. And
Married at this point? Still single?
not yet. No,
Okay.
no. But I think I just always had this entrepreneurial spirit, and I felt like I had a lot to learn still, but I was
You were ready.
capable enough of trying to do my own thing, and figured I just figure it out as I went.
How'd you
Um,
pull that
and
together? I was gonna say,
so go ahead.
I said, how did you pull that together? Now you're at 26 and you've decided, okay,
Yeah.
I want to open my own place. That's not an easy thing to do at any
No,
age.
it's not. It's not. And luckily at the time, food trucks were real big in Austin. So I kind of looked around and saw that a a farm to table concept for a food trailer would be unique and something that Austin didn't have. Austin was at a point of like a real big growth, but still not a lot of great restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I don't want to say not a lot of great restaurants, but just they needed more options.
What
We,
year is
we needed
this roughly for frame of reference?
This was 2009.
Okay, so this is really before Austin exploded in terms of the food
Yeah,
scene. And
yeah.
okay,
This was right at the beginning of like uh of all that, I
okay.
think.
So you
But
decided,
a lot of it was great timing for me. I think I got into the scene like right when like other people were doing it, and really was part of that big boom that we got. But yeah, so I figured, why not? I can do a food truck. That's a lot cheaper than a restaurant. Um, so I started looking into it. I was telling everybody that I worked with in Aspen, like, hey, I'm going to do this. And everyone's like, you're crazy. What are you doing? You're nuts. It's not going to
Doesn't that
I,
motivate you even more sometimes when
yeah,
people
I
tell you
think
you're
so.
nuts?
Yeah,
People have told me I'm
yeah,
nuts, and I'm like, yeah, well, okay.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, I got it set in my head, and I wasn't gonna back away from it. So I moved back to Austin and started the process looking for a trailer, seeing what my options were. I I wanted something kind of unique and that had character. You know, there are a lot of places, a lot of people were kind of going the big white box trailer route, and there's a lot of cool like airstreams that were being turned into food trailers, and
Hmm.
I thought that kind of direction would be cool. So I found this old 1980 Fleetwood Mallard travel trailer on eBay
Wow.
for like 4 grand in Wisconsin that was had been converted into like a catering truck for like festivals and stuff. It was called Laura's Wiener Wagon. She sold hot dogs out of it.
That's pretty cool, though.
It was actually painted like a big hot dog.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so me and my brother drove up to Wisconsin and looked at this thing, and I was like, oh boy, the pictures on eBay made it look a little better.
So you got there and you're like, this thing needs some work. It's
Yeah,
gonna need some
I thought since it
TLC.
had already been kind of gutted and converted into somewhat of a kitchen that it would be, an easy project.
Now you mentioned your brother. So your brother went up there with you. Was your brother
Uh,
involved in getting this enterprise launched at this stage of the game, or is it just
yeah,
you?
so 2009, my brother graduated from college with a finance degree. Not the best degree to have in
Not at that
2009.
year. Yeah.
So he didn't really have a job, so he started I was like, hey, you want to help me build this trailer and do all this stuff? And 15 years later, he's still, we're business partners, and he does all the finances for all the restaurants, and he's kind of a jack of all trades. He can fix anything and do whatever. I mean, he worked a little bit in the restaurants too in high school, but didn't pursue that as a career. So he's very helpful, and it's
How,
very nice to have your brother
I was gonna
as
say,
your
how do you feel about that? How do you feel about working with family? Because I work with my family. I have my
uh-huh.
daughter works here, and my wife works with me, and
Yeah.
my future son-in-law works here. So it's 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 interesting. It's a good. I love it. I'm curious to know. For people go, that's really difficult to work with family, and I'm like, yeah, well, it might be difficult, but there's so many other benefits I think that come with it.
Yeah, I think it's nice. I think we we get along fine enough. Like we don't I mean, honestly, nowadays I don't see him a whole lot at the restaurants. He's kind of got on his own schedule, and I'm doing my own thing. And so um you know it's nice to have to share that kind of connection with restaurants, and he does the things that I can't do, and I do the things that he can't do, so we work well together.
So it works.
um and then we have my father who has got his own restaurants doing his own thing, and whenever we get together, we talk shop, and I think it's cool. I think it's great to have that.
Did you have a business plan when you started this little food truck venture? Did you raise money? Was this all coming out of money that you had saved for yourself? Like, how did you, it's not easy to get a venture going,
Yeah.
right?
I My parents gave me a $15,000 loan, which I used to buy the trailer, and then so we brought it back to Austin, and then I spent about 3 months gutting it and redoing the whole thing, which my brother helped me with. My dad a little bit, and our neighbor who had some experience building would help us a little bit, but
So at this point, dad's all in. Dad's fully supportive of the direction that you're taking, and
he is, yeah. I mean, but he's got his own thing with his restaurant. So I mean, he helped where he could. He gave us advice where he could, and he was very supportive, very supportive.
awesome.
And so the rest of the money I put on my credit card and just maxed out my credit card. And
So you really believed in yourself
yeah,
because you.
yeah. I mean, at this point I was like, well, I'm doing it. I'm going to do everything I can to make this work. And I really believe that, like with anyone that has their own business, like if you're willing to put in the hours and put in the work, like you have a good shot. You have a good shot at figuring it out and making it happen. Because I'd never run a restaurant before. I'd never done a food truck before. I just figured it out. I learned what I could and just trial and error. And
What was the hardest part
um,
during that time for you? Like, what was the most challenging or the most difficult obstacle to overcome at that stage, like of getting it up and running and ready to go?
I mean, finding securing a place to park it. Um, I went through a couple places and talked to a couple landlords. At the time, Austin had a lot of empty lots. So this was before a lot of the high rises and big apartment buildings were built. So there were a lot of like food trailer parks around town.
Hmm.
They were just empty lots. People would park their trucks on and and then after a couple of years, a lot of those lots started getting sold and developed. So now our food truck scene is still very booming, and there's a lot of them, but they're you have to be a little more strategic on where you can park it. So just trying to find a lot that made sense, and convincing a landlord that he should choose me to park my truck there, and then setting up electricity and getting the truck in to a spot where I could get it inspected by the health department and get my license and all that stuff. And we uh, we were able to use my dad's restaurant as a commissary, so we could do some prep there. But man, it felt like the Wild West back then, like cooking out of a 20-foot wood box,
What were you
like
serving?
just so the other crazy part was that I had a wood fired grill. So everything we did, that's the only cooking surface that I had was a wood fired grill. So we did everything on that. And I would get a half a hog every week from one of our farmers, and just create based off of that. We get ducks, rabbits, whatever the go to the farmers market every Saturday, see whatever was there, and that's what we would create our menu from every day. And I would just write it on a chalkboard, and have like five or six, seven items, and
Changing
they were like smaller
changing.
servings.
Yep, changing
So
constantly.
yeah, yeah, it was smaller stuff. So people, a lot of people would come in and order the whole menu and get to try everything they were doing that day. They could come back the next week and get something totally different. And it was a lot of work. I was working a crazy amount, and it was very stressful to figure out like how to do all the logistics of cooking and bringing food to the trailer. I mean, we had big coolers in the back of our pickup trucks just full of food with ice on it, and because we couldn't fit it all in the trailer, and we just cook as much as we could until we sold out every night. We were very fortunate to start to get a following. This was back when Yelp was the
Coming onto
best
the
way to
scene.
advertise.
Yep.
And we got a good following, and I soon realized that I shouldn't look at Yelp anymore because it was really frustrating. um, so you learn little things like that along the way. But and then we were like on Anthony Bourdain, and uh, couple shows on Travel Channel and Food Network, and it just kind of exploded for us, where we were selling out every night, and um, you know having keep hiring people to help out, and it was great. It was
So the food truck was booming,
yeah.
and how long were you doing that in Austin? So you started right at around what 2009, you said, right? 2000.
Yeah, end of 2009, so it was like December. And then in 2010, kind of middle of the year, started just kind of casually looking at small restaurant spaces, and found one right down the road from where the trailer was. And small, like 1,000 square feet. um just kind of started the process of figuring that out. you know was able to get a lease signed, and raise a little bit of money from family, friends mostly. And so basically a year after opening the trailer, we opened Barley Swine, the first iteration, down on South Lamar in Austin.
Wow.
Uh, so it was December of 2010.
Now, did you
So at
did
that
you
point, the trailer
shut
had
the
been open a
food
year.
truck down, or did you keep that up opening at running at the same time that you were opening the restaurant?
So we decided it was I kind of assumed we might just close the trailer down so we could focus on the restaurant, but my brother decided like he could keep it going
Mm-hmm.
with the people that we had working there. So he ran it pretty much by himself with the other guys for the next year. We stayed
Wow.
open for another year,
Wow.
and that's when the landlord ended up selling the lot that we were on and to develop it. And I don't if that didn't happen, I don't know how long we would have stayed open, but my brother did a great job of keeping it going for a year while I focused on barley.
So Barley Swine opens in your original location, right? And
Yep.
then how long were you at that location before you moved to ultimately what like take me through that process. You open Barley Swine in your first
Uh-huh.
location. How long were you there?
Um, I think well, almost 6 years. So we opened in 2010, and then after a year or two, we were like, okay, I think we want to do a bigger restaurant, something a little more casual than what Barley Swine had started to go into a more higher end direction. Um, and so along with some of the guys that were at Barley, we opened up Odd Duck, um, actually at the location of where the food trailer was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they developed that lot with an apartment building, and then on the corner was this kind of restaurant space. As soon as I figured that out, I hounded the landlords to be like let's let me open a restaurant here. This would be a good story. Um, and so 2013 in December, so 3 years after Barley, we opened Odd Duck, which was a much bigger restaurant
So you
than
had
what Barley was.
so you had Barley Swine at this point.
Oh,
Food truck had been retired. You open up Odd Duck. Barley
yeah,
Swine was a little bit more fine dining,
yeah,
you would call it, I guess, and then Odd Duck was a little bit more casual, right?
yeah. That's how we looked at it. Even though people call Odd Duck fine dining, I don't know what the definition of that is anymore.
Yeah, that changes constantly. So you're running now both restaurants at the same
Yeah.
time. Okay. And then what happens from there?
So at that point, I think it was around 2015. I knew that I needed I was no longer going to be I didn't have any further of a lease at the original Barley after 2016. So I started the process of looking at moving it somewhere. I wanted to kind of separate it from Odd Duck because at that point, Odd Duck and Barley Swine were pretty close, just right down the street from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I
A
thought it'd be good to kind of spread them out in the city.
little more geography
And
between them.
so
Yeah.
we went up north um, on Burnett Road and found that space, and it was comparable in size and demographic and everything to what Odd Duck was. So I thought we had a good chance to do something good up there.
And this is where we met when I came to see
Yep.
you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, do you still own both? No, you own another restaurant as well, right? So
Yeah. So
when
then,
so what happens after Odd Duck and Barley Swine now moves to the new location?
yeah.
Then what?
So it's 2016 at that point where we move up there, and then um, with my partners at Odd Duck, we kind of start talking about wanting to do something else, and one of my partners, Mark, is very passionate about baking, and we were thinking, we did a lot of baking, sourdough and all kinds of things at Odd Duck, and we started looking at maybe a bakery space, and we found something that was pretty cool, and it had a couple buildings on there, and we ended up tearing a lot of it down and renovating one of them. But so basically, the concept turned into bakery, beer garden, cafe kind of thing, on an even lower scale from what Odd Duck was. Doing more just sandwiches and baked items.
Now, full disclosure, when we were
Uh,
doing our research for the show, we were looking at all these great restaurants that we
uh,
wanted to go along this bike route in Austin. And in addition to Barley Swine, a name popped up that we felt like, oh, we have to go to this place. And unbeknownst to us at the time, did not know that this
yeah,
was yet another restaurant that you have an interest in, which is
yeah, sour
exactly,
duck market.
which is this bakery
Um,
concept that you're talking about now as we're talking
uh-huh,
through.
right. So it's like Odd Duck's little sisters, kind of what we looked at it as, and so um, Odd Duck was just we were just going crazy and just really needed more space. So part of it is like sour duck is a little bit of a commissary for us too, where all of our baked stuff comes from there. Um, we thought maybe even other things could be prepped there because there's a little bit bigger kitchen and space to do things. So
I
um,
will tell you, we're going to
yeah,
talk about food in a second, but I will tell you, having eaten at Sour Duck, first of all, probably in my top five hamburgers I've ever had in my whole life. I kid you
cool.
not. And
Yeah,
I mean, I've had a lot of hamburgers. It ranks up there because
right on.
it's everything. They're a scratch kitchen, right? Everything,
Huh?
including the
Yeah.
bun that the burger is served on.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. But yeah, so uh,
No, I'm glad to hear. Yeah. So yeah, we opened Sour Duck in 2018, so that was a little over 2 years from Barley, um, and yeah, and then the pandemic hit. That was the next project, and trying to figure all that out. Here we are now.
so currently now, do you own all three, or is it just the two now? Which restaurants do you still own all three of them?
Yeah, I'm a partner in all of them.
In all of them.
Yeah.
Um, the barley swine experience was something. I'm going to just describe this for the listeners and the viewers. Was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before, and I've been to some really great restaurants. And I'm going to tell you the reason why I say that unlike something I've never experienced before. We got there before you opened that day. Our crew was
Oh,
loading in. We were getting ready to set up and do our interview with you, and I had the distinct advantage of sitting at the bar while the crew was loading in, and I was watching what I would basically best describe as a ballet. It was something like I've never seen, to the degree in which the attention, the meticulous attention to detail of everything that was happening, getting ready for opening, right? It was like the curtain's about to open, the show's about to go on, and everything has to be perfection. And I'm talking about wiping down hoods and counters and, just moving, food storage trays from one little position that was off center to the correct position that it was supposed to be in. Every little detail in that restaurant was, and at the front of the house, the same choreography was happening at the front of the house. Everybody was moving, getting the table set, making sure everything on the table was set perfectly. It was a show in and of itself. And what I really loved, and I took notice of when I walked in, is your restaurant is a big restaurant. And the fact of the matter is, it's it is dominated predominantly by the kitchen. The kitchen is the biggest thing in the restaurant. And I want to talk to you about that because I think when we spoke, clearly by design, and it kind of fit with the theme of what I was experiencing as this person coming in before opening. I felt like the kitchen was the stage, right? And it was the place for the guests who are seated around the kitchen to be able to kind of watch this performance of putting out unbelievable dishes. And I'm just talk to me about the architecture of this restaurant and this choreography that I'm describing. Is this standard operating procedure every day? And was it intentional the way you built that restaurant?
yeah. I mean, well, thanks for noticing all that. I mean, I certainly glad to hear that you appreciate all the little details and stuff. We can still be better at it. There's still a lot of things that we can get better at. So I'm a big fan of open kitchens in restaurants. I think it adds a really cool energy to the space. I've always, as a chef, I've always liked working in them because you get to watch the guests eat your food. You get to see the reactions from it firsthand. Um, and I think that like really keeps you going, to see people enjoy, if they enjoy it, you could see it on their face and it's like, cool, I did something good, Um, so I think just from, the kitchen aspect, it's cool to have that interaction with the guests and then for the guests to be able to see and interact with the kitchen is just kind of added bonus to the atmosphere. That's just who we are. If you want to go to a restaurant where it's it's just all about the dining room and you don't have to worry about the sounds and the heat and all that stuff coming out of the kitchen, then like, cool, that's not us. Um, it also keeps us honest. We can't hide anything from people. We got to keep everything clean. We got to keep everything sanitary. We don't, we're not tasting food with our fingers because people are watching us. So I think for a lot of reasons, the open kitchen makes sense. Um, as far as the architecture goes, that was, it's funny because I was, as a kid, always intrigued by architecture. I was kind of thought that I'd be an architect someday. One of my hobbies growing up was designing houses, just drawing them on, I've got tons of notebooks of just house designs and was always into that. I think that's why I like cooking so much is because you're creating something with your hands and architecture is kind of the same thing, if you can see it all the way through from design to build. Um,
Well, it's clearly it's your passion for design and architecture clearly is
yeah.
demonstrated in
And
the way in
I
which.
just unfortunately like had no desire to sit in front of a computer at a desk all day and with food and cooking like it's kind of instant gratification. Like you cook something, people eat it, they like it. It's like okay, move on to the next thing.
Mhm.
Um, so it's kind of cool that I got to. I mean, I was very involved in the design and layout of all the restaurants. Barley particularly because I knew like when you know that like you're going to be spending a lot of time in a place, like you're going to design it in a certain way, right? And it all starts with okay, we need to have a certain amount of seats, um, so we can do a certain amount of guests every night and make a certain amount of money. So once that was kind of figured out, and I was able to kind of design the kitchen around the amount of space we needed. I know it does feel like when you walk in there, the kitchen is like half of the restaurant, if not more. But uh,
But
it's
I love it though.
definitely a higher percentage than a lot of restaurants would devote to a kitchen. But I knew that I wanted it to be able to accommodate the things we wanted to do there. One of them being that when we opened in 2016, we were doing an a la carte menu and a separate tasting menu out of the same kitchen. And that was definitely a big part of how and why I designed it that way.
Mm.
Um, just allowed for proper flow and a lot of um, bodies helping out. A lot of we rely on a lot of teamwork. Like you plate your thing, and when you get a lot, someone's going to come and help you. When you're done plating your thing, you're going to move over and start helping someone else plate their thing, and just kind of allowed for that. Um,
As a guest, it's kind
so,
of like dinner theater. Honestly,
yeah,
it
yeah,
truly is. Like I had a real appreciation being in there when service was just getting ready to get started, and you couldn't help but notice it was like theater, and it was beautifully choreographed theater. It was not, it wasn't chaotic. There was no screaming. There was everything was calm and elegantly moving from one place to the next, and it was truly like watching a ballet. It was
well,
wonderful.
yeah. And like I said, I think we got years of experience now doing it in an open kitchen. We can't, as much as I would like to yell, I can't because we don't want to disrupt the guests that are sitting right there.
Yeah.
We got to be mindful of that. So,
How would you
uh,
describe the cuisine there?
so we've always, I mean, all the restaurants are, the farm to table concept. We start with that. We like what ingredients are available to us, and then we try to create food that we think is in that we enjoy to eat. Things that we think are cool and interesting. Flavors that are bold and exciting. Familiar but a little bit different. Um, Textures that are intriguing and enjoyable. But we don't have like a certain genre of cuisine that we stick by. We bring in influences from all over the world. I grew up in Texas, so I think I've kind of gravitated towards more uh, of the Mexican inspired things. Or smoked meats and things. But then we collaborate together too. So I mean, it's cool when you have a kitchen full of people from all over the place, and they're bringing things that maybe they grew up with, and we're just kind of like melting it all together.
Do you love that part of it? I mean, the collaborative art part of it. I mean, because what I do is a collaborative art. People always say, "Oh, when we've had accolades for the work that we've done, people will come up to me and congratulate me." And I'm like, it's not just me. Like, there's 30 other people that make this happen, and without any one of them, it wouldn't be the same thing that we put out. Do you feel the same way?
100%. I mean, I don't create every single recipe, cook every single dish that leaves the kitchen. We definitely rely on a lot of people doing all the day-to-day stuff, and it's my role now is basically like just kind of helping facilitate certain ideas into things that I think make sense to go on the menu, tasting with people and giving feedback. um, but I still will create recipes and things that I want to put on the menu, but it's definitely not as imperative that I do that, and not part of my day-to-day stuff now. But um, I always tell people, like, if you enjoyed something on the menu, that then I'll take the credit for it. If you did not enjoy it, it was this other guy. So,
Yeah, that's great. Um, you have uh, earned a huge reputation both as a culinary artist and restaurateur. You've been nominated multiple times for the James Beard Award. I don't quite understand why you've not yet clinched one, having been at your place and experienced the delight of what you are putting out. It's mind-boggling, but that's a conversation probably for another day. You have also become known for your commitment to local, your commitment to sustainability, your commitment to doing things with low carbon footprint. Talk to me a little bit about some of those passions that you have and how it kind of plays into the daily operation of the restaurant.
yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up on a farm, or a ranch. I didn't have any strong connection to growing food or raising animals when I was a kid. But as a young chef, I was so focused on learning cooking techniques and the basics of being in a kitchen. And then after a while, I started to develop this. I started to gravitate more towards like the sourcing side of the food that we were cooking, and just kind of slowly developed you know a passion for it. I think just going to the farmers markets and talking to the farmers, and seeing and meeting the people that are responsible for all the work that goes into to growing our food, just furthered it. And the more relationships I formed with that, and the more time I spent learning about what it took to grow the food that we cooked with, it was just like you I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't want to, I wanted that to be who we were about. And, um, you start to understand that like we rely so much on farms, and um, the small farmer is what is keeping this world together. And we I just wanted to be a part of supporting it. I think we all need to do that more. We tend to take our food for granted, and I think just kind of like having that connection with the people that are doing all the work to get food to us is imperative. And I just wanted our concepts at the restaurants to be very much supportive of all that. Um, there when you run a restaurant, you have to compromise. I can't do everything that I want to do and still stay open.
Mm-hmm.
I have to use plastic wrap. I have to, things like that. So we try to be, as sustainable as we can, make the right choices with what we're buying. And I think a lot of people appreciate that. I think they appreciate when they go out to eat, knowing that the food that they're eating was sourced responsibly. Um, and for some people, they don't care. It's just a bonus. It's like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I want our food to be great. I don't want you to come here just because of our sourcing, but just know, like, if you're enjoying it, like, this is all from these farms around here. And the rancher, you can go talk to the guy who raised the beef that you're eating right now, on Saturday at the farmers market if you want to.
You were so passionate on this subject matter though that you went and bought your own farm, literally. I mean,
Yeah, I I've had a dream for a while of having my own farm. I've had a dream, I've gotten more interested in like doing the physical work myself. Whether it's a small garden at my house or at the restaurants or whatever. Um, and got an opportunity to buy some land that I thought maybe someday could turn into a farm. Um, and I think it was just like this was 2022 maybe, like, just the weather can be weird here. So like I think it was just like a time of the year where like it was hard to get a lot of produce. And because at the restaurants we need a lot of volume, right? So we're usually trying to buy like a lot of stuff from a lot of farmers. And sometimes it's not easy,
mm-hmm.
Because they don't, maybe the weather didn't allow for them to have a good harvest that week or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna go ahead and just start getting this land ready and do my best to try to start a farm and hire someone to manage it, and we'll see how far we can grow it. So that's kind of this state that we're in right now. We're in our first winter. We started planting back in April or May of last year. So we had some stuff through the summer, and we're learning a lot, making a lot of mistakes, wasting a lot of money. Um, but um, but I love it. And I
Yeah.
love figuring it out. I love what's cool about this industry too is like whether I got into farming or not, like there is always something to learn and get better at. And if you're somebody that's always striving to like learn and grow as a person or in your craft, the cooking industry the restaurant industry is definitely a place to do that. So
What percentage now of what you're using in the restaurant is coming from your own farm?
it fluctuates. Like right now, I don't have a lot, honestly.
Right.
We had a freeze last month that wiped a lot of it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got down to like 15 degrees for a little bit. Not a lot of things in Texas like 15-degree weather.
Yeah.
Um, and we weren't quite prepared for it. So we lost some stuff. So I mean, I've got like radishes and turnips and a little bit of broccoli. We're planning real hard right now for the spring and get ready for the summer. So we have a lot of seedlings that are starting to sprout, peppers and tomatoes.
Nice. Nice.
So, yeah,
So
we'll see how. I mean, we're trying to go big for this year and just keep growing. It's one of those things of like you want to learn and get better at, but you have like one shot every year.
Yeah, it's
Like,
it's it's
well, if I want to grow better peppers this year, I've got like one shot at it. So
yeah,
we'll see.
nature's fickle that way,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you have to you get another round at it the following year. It's not like you can just like when you draw something and just crumple up a piece of paper and say, no, I'll just
Oh,
start with a
yeah.
clean sheet. It
You
doesn't
you
work
have to
that
have a
way.
lot of patience, which is something I'm learning, and we want to, when you have all these ideas and things you want to implement, that you learned, and it's like, well, you just got to sit there and wait for the Earth to rotate around the sun so you can get to a point where you can do it.
Yeah.
So,
Let's talk about the food experience that I had when I was with you. You brought some things out of the kitchen which were just incredible. I don't know if you remember, but I can remind you. But do you remember what you brought out?
I think a couple things, yeah.
Okay, so think we had the farm raised yellowtail wrapped in osanta. Is that am I saying it correctly?
Hoja Santa.
Hoja santa. So
Yeah.
we had the farm raised yellowtail wrapped in hoja santa. We then went and had a bite of fried okra, sliced okra slice of copa, right?
Uh-huh.
Then you had the shiitake stuffed pasta. Oh my gosh, over scrambled eggs with shiitake chips and slice of banana peppers, and then lemon and dashi semifredo cookie and caviar on top. Am I saying all these things correctly? I think I am.
Yeah, I think so.
You could correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that one was like a little mini ice cream sandwich with caviar on it.
It was incredible. And then brown bellicata with melon ice. I mean, these were bites of heaven. It's the best way to describe them. Where do
Yeah.
these ideas come from? And of these dishes that I just mentioned, like talk to me about these. Where does the inspiration for these come from? I know we talked about the collaborative effort, but like some of these are your own brainchild, right?
Yeah, I think it's, at this point, um, we've cooked a lot of we've put a lot of dishes on the menu um over the years at all the restaurants, and we're kind of like we're always trying to like do something new. The more you do it, the more difficult it gets to totally create something that's absolutely 100% unique to what we've done before. So I think a lot of it is kind of just like recycled kind of ideas. Maybe it's like a new ingredient or or whatever, or maybe a slightly new technique paired with something we've done before. So I mean that's kind of like what you're getting now is like we've done iterations of a lot of these things over the years and just kind of like tweaked them a little bit throughout the seasons. And like so you were there over the summer,
Correct.
and yeah, like we have a little garden in the back of Barley where we have the Oa Santa growing, and it's a perennial, so it comes back every year and it spreads a lot. So like our whole back garden is just full of Oa Santa now. So we're like every year we're like, what are we gonna do with all this? So we're able to put a dent in it by cutting it, larger pieces of it and wrapping it around the fish. So that was nice.
Speaking of the fish,
Um,
I mentioned the word farm raised yellowtail, and people look at me
uh-huh.
like I have five heads. Like farm raised yellowtail tuna, and you told me while we were together a unique story about this particular purveyor, in which you procure the farm raised yellowtail. Can you tell us a little bit about that? This is kind of something that's unique.
So yeah, I mean, farming fish is obviously not new, but I think doing it in a sustainable way that is best for the fish and the environment is not always uh, the way that it goes. So it's nice to find. I mean, seafood is we all know. I mean, the oceans are not going in the right direction, and it's who knows where our seafood supply is going to be, at the end of our lifetime. And I think that if you could find sustainable sourcing options for um, your seafood, then we're gonna do that. We don't have a lot of great seafood in the Gulf to pull from. I mean, we have, I enjoy our shrimp here, and some of the fish. My favorite is redfish, but um, that might be because I grew up fishing it and eating it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we want to do like really nice quality stuff, like it's we're looking outside of the Gulf of Mexico, and so our second choice is kind of like, is there something that's farm raised that we can uh, agree with, the standards that they go by. So yeah, and I'm not an expert at this by any means,
Understood.
so I don't want to like say something wrong, but this yellowtail is it's similar to like the hamachi uh, that you might see at a sushi restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Very good quality. Um, and it is I think the technical name, it's a hiramasa, I believe. Um, but they do the pins in the ocean, so it's as much of a natural environment as possible, done in a way that's not disrupting um, the natural habitats and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we it's a good product. It's a great
It was
product, and
delicious.
we love it.
It was
It's very
absolutely.
good.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely the way it was prepared. It was absolutely delicious. I mean, I have to ask this question, and I want you to try to answer if you can. Why do you think this James Beard Award has been so elusive for you? I mean, I would love your perspective on it because
I
to be how
think
many
I would
times
have to go off the record
how
to
many
really.
times how many times have you been nominated?
I think seven official finalist
Okay.
nominations.
Mm.
I've been to the Beard Awards 7 times, sat in the chair and watched as someone else's name was called.
You and I share that in common, by the way. I've been not 7 times. I was there once, nominated once for
So it's great. Great to be
huge
recognized, to be
honor.
in the top
Yeah, huge
final
honor.
list of names. Like I can't complain about that at all.
Mm.
Why I was never officially chosen, I could give you a couple reasons. I don't think I particularly want to share that on here, because
Understood.
I don't think
But
it
do you
would be
like
appropriate.
when you go through that process of trying to understand, like do you ever question your like is there something I should be doing differently? Is there something like why am I like or are you still confident in what it is that you're doing and you're just going to keep doing the great work that you're doing? In other words, does that elusiveness lead to you to question what you're doing and what do you take with that? Like what do you do with that information?
So, well, I'm not naive to the fact that politics is, plays a part in everything like this. So, I feel like there's going to be a certain level of things that are out of my control. But at the end of the day, like these awards are nice, but they're not why I do what I do.
Understood.
So every time I would lose, I remind myself, hey, you made it this far, great, but let's go back to work tomorrow and keep doing good things. I mean,
And the proof is
I
in the pudding, right? Your seats are full every single night. I was there. The restaurant was packed. Sour duck was packed. You know what I mean? I don't. I don't think.
that's
I don't think customers
yeah.
are disagreeing with what you are doing.
Yeah, I mean, as long that's kind of what it comes back to, is like, look, I'm very fortunate to have successful restaurants that are still open. People enjoy them. And that's why got into this. I didn't get into cooking to win awards. I mean, I knew what the Beard Award was uh, when I was younger, but it never crossed my mind that I would be sitting in that amphitheater with the potential of getting called up there to give a speech about winning it.
Mm.
So it's cool, but I I really, what makes me happy is knowing that the guests that come in to the restaurants are having a good time. I mean, if we can bring people happiness and create positive memories for people, like that's worth more to me than
Than any
anything.
award, yeah. And
Uh,
you're absolutely doing that. What's next for you? You've accomplished so much. You've built such a great reputation, such a following. I'm just curious as to, yeah, I know you've got the farm now and you're getting that going, but like what in your mind, you're still a young guy. You know what I mean? Where do you go from here?
I've I always have the itch to. I love opening restaurants. I love conceptualizing and seeing them go from that stage to the designing and just having my hand in all that. And then opening day and figuring out all the stuff that comes with the new restaurant. I love that. I really, as hard and stressful as it is, I really do enjoy it. So I'm not like I don't have any plans right now to do another restaurant. Not opposed to it. I think we've all of us, me and my partners at the places have enough going on. Like if something comes up and we want to pursue it, we'll talk about it. The farm is very much a I can spend as much time on it as I want. There's never ending projects out there. And then I've got two little boys that I want to be a good father to. And my dad did an amazing job of providing for us as a chef and building a very, very good career himself. I would like to do that and try to learn from what he did and try to be maybe around a little bit more
Yeah.
if possible. So that's kind of my focus right now is just trying to be a good dad and a good husband and uh and figure out this farm. And if another restaurant or another food related project comes along, like we'll see what happens.
You're mentioning your family, and I remember the conversation that we had when we were together, which I thought was very, very endearing. Which is, I asked you, "Do you cook at home?" Like when you're not at and you shared with me a story about your children and what they like most when you cook, and talk to me about that. Like they're very picky eaters. You told me.
Yeah, I envy the chefs that have their, they cook these nice meals and the kids try everything. Or I mean, we get parents bring their children into Barley Swine and they do the whole tasting menu. I'm just like, God, that's cool. That's really cool. I can't get my son to eat anything other than roasted potatoes and chicken or steak. I mean, I do steak night every week. My two boys love the steak, but anytime I try to like switch it up on the vegetables or whatever, like no luck,
Yeah.
no luck.
Yeah. Are they
God forbid it touches, stuff on the plate.
so they're a little bit pickier
Yeah,
in terms
yeah.
of.
I'm hoping that well, one of them's only two, so but my almost 9 year old hopefully will open up a little bit more and enjoy a little bit more than what he's eating right now.
If your two sons, fast forward, we started the conversation with a rewind. Fast forward, if your two sons, when they're older, come to you as you did to your dad and say, "Dad, I wanna be a chef," what's the advice that you're gonna dispense in that moment in time?
I mean, I'll probably do what he did and make sure that they have all the information they need to know what they're getting into. I think I assume that they will not be having that conversation with me without any prior like experience working in the restaurants. So, like at least with my dad, like I had worked in the restaurants for a couple years when I came to that realization. So I kind of knew how restaurants went, because if you never worked in a restaurant and you think you want to be a professional chef, like you have another thing coming because it's totally different. It's not as glamorous as maybe television makes it seem.
Mm, a lot of hard work.
You gotta work in a kitchen in a restaurant, and you gotta like that first before you start thinking about pursuing that as a career. So that would be number one. Is have you worked? I don't know. I don't know if they're going to want to work in one of my restaurants when they're older or not. So we'll see. But that would be number one. And then just yeah, I want to be supportive. Um,
You
because
you you obviously you've built. I mean, the Austin food scene has exploded since you started as a food truck operator back in 2009. The city has become a destination that people want to come to. You have the South by Southwest Festival. You have all these great things that are happening in the city, this great food scene. And you've been a big part of that. I mean, and I guess my last question to you is, how does it feel to know that you, and please, I know you're a humble guy, but like take a little credit where credit's due. You've been a big part I think, of this kind of renaissance, if you will, of the food scene in Austin, Texas. How does that make you feel now, being able to look back and say, wow, like look where we started and look where we as a company have come, as a restaurateur have come, but look where the city has come.
Yeah, I'm very proud of what we've accomplished. I think that, I was born and raised here. Not a lot of people living in Austin were born here, and a lot of people moved here from other places. So I'm very proud of the city. So just to be a part of anything like that, like to be a part of its growth is awesome. And it feels good to talk to people and find out that what we've done at the restaurants has impacted them in a positive way. Again, that's just one of the things that keeps us going as chefs is knowing that we're creating positive experiences for people. And I think a lot of it honestly was right timing too for me. Had I been a couple years later or a couple years earlier, who knows where we'd be right now. So luck always plays into that, but I don't know. I've worked my butt off, and I've surrounded myself with great people that work their butts off, and we've been able to do some good things, and I'm just really happy that if we've had any positive influence on the city and the people in it, like in the community around us, then I feel very proud of that, and just want to keep that going.
Well, you've been doing things unbelievably right. So, Bryce Gilmore, I can't thank you enough, chef, for being part of this podcast. How do people find you? Should they come visit Austin? If you could, maybe this is a chance to kind of promote the restaurants. Where do we find you on social media? Where do we find you? Talk to us about how people can locate you and get a reservation and get a seat at one of your tables.
Yeah. So, you came and visited me at Barley Swine, which is off of Burnett Road in Austin. It is on the northern side of downtown. A quick 10-minute Uber from your hotel room if you're visiting. But we do a tasting menu there featuring local ingredients, what's in season, so it changes with the seasons. And Odd Duck is on South Lamar. And we've been there for 10 years now, doing an a la carte menu. Again, there's just food that is created from local farmers, and we encourage people to share plates there. I wouldn't say they're small plates, but they're definitely like plates that we don't really believe in the app and entree kind of thing. Everyone gets their own plate of food. We try to encourage people to order as much as they can and share it with their table and get to try all the different things. So you're not stuck to just one plate of food. That's kind of always been our concept there, just trying to encourage people to share and try everything. And then Sour Duck is a bakery beer garden. Like, you bring your kids to run around and
you got live music there sometimes.
What's that?
You've got live music there sometimes.
Yeah, we I don't know if you noticed, but in the yard is the old
that's the stage
trailer.
So the old Odd Duck
stage. We gutted it, dragged it out there, and opened up one of the sides so people can, when there's nothing going on in there, the kids go up there and play. I think we painted like chalkboard paint on there so they can write all over it and stuff. So
it's very cool. And how about social media? Where do we find you on social media?
Yeah, everywhere. Odd Duck Austin, Barley Swine, Sour Duck Market. Should be easy to find.
Awesome. Bryce, I can't thank you enough. It's been a real pleasure sitting down with you today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you and coming to visit us, and can't wait to see the show.
For more information on this episode, as well as other episodes in this series, head over to our website at bike2bitespodcast.com. You can also find us on YouTube at Bike to Bites. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe while you're there. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, We would appreciate a 5-star rating and a glowing review. It really does help spread the word. Check out our Instagram at biketobites.tv and be sure to follow my personal Instagram at Garrett A. Bess, where I post shots of my daily rides and interesting places I visit. If you're interested in watching the Bike to Bites TV show, please visit biketobites.com. We also have some really cool stuff of Bike to Bites apparel and some other things that you can check out while you're there. You know, our podcast today would not be possible without our great sponsor, E+, and I am so thankful that they've been along with me on this journey. E+ helps organizations harness the power of technology for truly transformative results. From AI and security to cloud and workplace transformation, E+ brings you the right solutions at the right time in the most efficient way. E+ is on the front line of today's modern enterprise. Check them out at eplus.com. Well, that about does it for this episode of Bike to Bites podcast. I'm your host, Garrett Bess. We'll see you next time. And remember, pedal, eat, and repeat.